Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month slows. Full terms at mintmobile.com.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Explaining football to the friend who's just there for the nachos? Hard. Tailgating from home like a pro with snacks and drinks everyone will love? An easy win. And with Instacart helping deliver the snack time MVPs to your door, you're ready for the game in as fast as 30 minutes. So you never miss a play or lose your seat on the couch or have to go head-to-head for the last chicken wing. Shop Game Day Faves on Instacart and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 grocery orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Other fees and terms apply.
Super Real.
Hey, I'm Julian Morgans, and you're listening to What It Was Like, the show that asks people who have lived through big, dramatic events what it was like. So, Blake Lively. You've probably seen the controversy, and if you haven't, here it is, just really quickly. Blake Lively is an actress. She was in Gossip Girl, which made her famous, and then she starred in a bunch of movies that I mostly haven't seen. And then she married Ryan Reynolds, and they've got 4 kids, and until recently they seemed like a very happy, rich couple. But suddenly, out of the clear blue sky, everything for Blake Lively has changed. In early August, Lively's latest film, It Ends With Us, premiered in New York. The film, based on Colleen Hoover's novel about domestic violence, sparked some buzz when people on TikTok noticed that no group photos of the cast were being taken at the premiere. And then these same eagle-eyed TikTokers, they noticed that Lively wasn't following the film's director, Justin Baldoni, on Instagram. And they seemed to actually be avoiding each other at press events. So rumors of a feud started up. And then, these same TikTokers, they started pointing out that Lively's lighthearted behavior in interviews compared to her co-star's more serious tone, well, it seemed kind of off given that the film, it deals with some pretty serious issues. And then the final straw, that came on August 11, just last month, when a Norwegian journalist posted a video from a 2016 interview that she'd done with Lively. And it goes like this. Imagine this journalist, she's facing Lively, who's sitting next to this other actress on a couch. And the journalist starts by saying to Lively, who was pregnant at the time, "Hey, congratulations on your little bump." To which Lively retorts, "Congratulations on your little bump." Even though this woman, this Norwegian journalist, she wasn't pregnant. And you could see it on her face. Her face kind of falls, and she looks hurt and a bit shocked. And this was where the story really took off. This is where all of the gears of the cancel culture machine powered up, because suddenly it was like there wasn't just a secret feud going on between Blake Lively and her director, but everyone on the internet seemed to decide that Blake Lively was actually just kind of mean. And that became the accusation. This wasn't like she'd screwed up, like she hadn't done anything legally wrong. She'd simply been outed for being mean. And that's when I started paying attention. Because that's when I realized that me, Julian, I have a tiny little dog in this fight. And that's because I have a very tiny, very small amount of experience in the film and TV industry. And I gotta say, that industry is kind of mean. I'll take it a step back. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a filmmaker. Jurassic Park was my favorite movie as a child. Quentin Tarantino was my favorite director as a teenager. You know, just every young male film dork cliche, I ticked all of them. So when I finished high school, I studied film. And then when I graduated, surprise, surprise, it was really hard to get a job. I spent about 3 years trying to get a toenail, just wiggle a little toenail through the door of the film industry. And for the most part, it was a thoroughly disappointing experience. To say that I was rejected would be generous, because mostly I was just ignored. I actually got some internships, and let's be clear, I met some lovely people. But for the most part, my emails, my phone calls were completely ignored. No opportunities appeared. Serendipity just kind of ceased to exist for 3 years, and it didn't matter what I tried. It always felt like I was trying to prise open a bank vault with my fingernails. And the thing that sticks with me is that, like, the people that I was approaching, you know, for mentorship, for opportunities, for internships, to just like give me feedback, whatever, these people weren't even politely disinterested. The thing that sticks with me is that no one ever missed an opportunity to point out my status relative to theirs. I remember once calling a production company to ask about an internship, and I was doing that all the time. So I was like, "Hey, I'm Julian. I'm just wondering about your internship program." And the person on the other end of the line just goes, "No, we're not a university," and hung up. Actually just hung up. And I was like, what? Why? What happened to you? And I think I came to the conclusion that not only was this a mean industry, but it was one that actively didn't want me. And to be honest, it probably didn't want a lot of these seemingly unhappy, angry people that I was meeting all the time. And so I quit, and I got into journalism, and I've been happier ever since. But when I watched that video of Blake Lively being kind of snarky to that journalist, it felt familiar. Because not only is the film industry built on people who seem perpetually insecure about their employment status, but in my experience, often the executives, the upper echelons, they're stacked with people who are just kind of ruthless. People who are naturally drawn to hierarchies. These people, they gravitate to Hollywood because, well, it's the ultimate pecking order. Now, don't get me wrong. There's loads of really lovely people in the industry too. And I am lucky enough to claim some of them my friends. I'm just saying that compared to other industries, there seems to be a disproportionate number of mean people in the film industry. And I also don't think this is a gendered thing. Let's be clear about that. And I don't think it's an age thing. And I don't even think it's a Hollywood thing, because God knows we've got the same situation here in Australia too. It's just an industry thing. So when I see these videos of Blake Lively being rude to people, I'm just kind of like, yep, that's the film industry. But here's the rub. I am definitely not a film industry insider. I've got a podcast. So I wanted to know what actual insiders feel about this controversy. What does the Blake Lively pile-on look like for people who have actually worked with Blake Lively? So to find out, we're speaking with a Hollywood hairstylist named Emanuel Millar. Emanuel has worked for over 35 years on all of your favorite movies, and he's just written his memoir called The Kindest Cut, and it's basically his experiences cutting hair for movie stars, as seen through a lens of working in an environment that so highly prizes status. It's a really interesting book. Emanuel was a hairstylist on a Blake Lively movie back in 2011. So our interview, it's about Lively, but it's also a broader effort to unpack why the industry can feel so mean and what makes people behave the way they do. So here he is, Emanuel Millar. Emanuel, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure's all mine. Let's start by talking about how you got into cutting hair.
At the age of 10 years old, I locked myself in my parents' ranch house bathroom, and I cut my own hair because my mother I had an uncle who was a barber, and he gave her his old clippers, and I hated it. And I thought, I'm cutting my own hair. And after 3 times of cutting my hair, the first time she said, you're going to school like that. And finally, my brother, after about the 4th time, said, why don't you cut my hair? And I learned that it was a lot easier to cut somebody else's hair. And my mother just kind of threw her hands up and said, I give up. And when I finished high school, my mother said, why don't you go to beauty college? And had never thought of it, but I went to beauty college. Used to tell everybody throughout the months of beauty college that I was going to open up my own salon. So I opened Manny's Hairstyling in Whittier, California. But as busy as it was, I knew I wanted to get in the film business. And Hollywood was half an hour away. And so I sold the salon, got rid of it, and moved to Hollywood. And everybody I met, people I would sneak onto sets, I said, I'm trying to get in the film business. Do you know anybody? And that led to me just working hard, doing a lot of freebies. I had just gotten married a year before that. We had our first child, and did about 2 more years of freebies. And then finally one day, a makeup artist that I worked with in one of the freebies, she called me because they needed a hairstylist. And so I rushed to downtown LA, didn't know who I would be working with. It was my first paid job, and it was Tina Turner. And I knew then, I said to myself, I have a feeling I'm going to be doing the lead people now, that if I'm doing Tina Turner, and sure enough, every job I got after that in the film business, I've either been the head hairstylist or a personal to somebody. And it's just been that way since.
Can I just point out that the jump from running your own hair salon to I'm going to go to Hollywood and try to break in and do the hair of the stars, that's kind of crazy. That's ambition bordering on crazy. I guess I'm curious. Tell me about the level of self-belief that it takes to go and do that. Fortunately,
I think about it now as a blessing. Thank you for pointing that out. Kids made fun of me in school. I'm 6'4". I was always the tallest kid. I was kind of goofy. I wore suit jackets to school. I was the only kid with a coat, a sports coat. And so even my older brother, who was a year older than me, said, you're so weird. Everybody thinks you're weird. Well, I just kept that weirdness going. I just thought, well, people don't want to be my friend and they want to see me as weird. So to have a salon at 19 years old, to open up a salon, and then I just kept dreaming, and I just thought, this is not it. As much as it was, I put my mind to anything I want to do. I just put my mind to doing it and focusing on it. And it was weird. My wife, she wasn't the most supportive. Her and my mother were trying to talk me out of it. Are you sure about this? And now we had another child. My daughter was born. By the time I started working, but in answer to your question, it's a belief in yourself that not a lot of people have. And I think when I started working with celebrities and people who had made it in the film business, then I found people who said, oh yeah. And I realized I was around people who were saying, that's what you got to do. You got to do. But I went through a lot of skepticism and doubts and being made fun of, and you have 3 kids and aren't you going to get a job? But I just kept pursuing it.
I mean, in some ways, we're talking about the best parts of Hollywood, but I think I wanted to talk to you really about also some of the worst parts. So let's move into some of the parts of your career where you're working with people like Blake Lively. How did you get there?
It's hard to talk about working with Blake without mentioning I did a film with Anne Hathaway, and that was one of my worst experiences working with somebody who, she knew I'd worked with Cate Blanchett. She knew I'd worked with Angelina Jolie because Emily Blunt told her that this guy is great. He's got this career, and they called me to do her hair. But throughout the job, Anne never acknowledged me as a person. For 4.5 months, she treated me like a servant. You're here to do my hair. We shot the film in Los Angeles for a few weeks. During that time, while we were in Los Angeles, my daughter was her stand-in. And Anne she knew that it was my daughter. And I was doing her hair personally, just one-on-one. I was just doing her hair. She never said, your daughter, do you have other children, or how long have you been married? There was never any personal conversation, which Cate Blanchett and I, we knew each other's family. She knew my children. Johnny Depp was that way. Tom Hanks knew two of my children. But Anne Hathaway never did that. Well, Blake Lively, when I was called to do her, her hair, I got the feeling when I first met her, I thought, oh no, is this another Anne Hathaway situation? Because the way she was dismissive from the get-go. You're introduced to somebody and they do the hello, and then there's other people that you're introduced, like Judi Dench or Jane Fonda, and they just say hello. It's even in a hello and how they greet you that, oh, this is going to be one of those, you are the hair person, I'm the star. And that's what I felt from Blake Lively.
Okay. So there's a lot there. Let's just slow this down and unpack a few things along the way. So when you say it was very transactional, it sounds like there was a wall up with Anne Hathaway. There's this idea that you're like a tradie, you're here like, in a capacity to do a job. I don't need to give anything of myself to you. I mean, was it mean or just kind of professional?
Again, I had just come from a movie after working with Cate Blanchett on so many films where we had a bond of there was an understanding. And then I had just finished a film with Tom Hanks. I had just finished working on Charlie Wilson's War and doing Da Vinci Code with him. So I was used to people saying, hey, I'm the actor, you're the hairdresser, I can't do my job without you, and you can't do your job without me. So I don't know. That's a good question, Julian, actually. I don't know if it's deliberately being mean or if it's just in order for me to feel like a movie star, I have to act like a movie star and treat people a certain way, because I only saw Anne be superficial with any crew member and only speak to Steve Carell, who was in the film Get Smart, or Dwayne Johnson, or the director or the producers. And my impression was that's what you do to convince yourself that you're a movie star.
Yeah. It feels very high school to me. I've seen this kind of social dynamic play out in high school where like the popular kids, they only talk to each other. And when they're talking to someone who's outside of their pecking order, I remember observing as a teenager, the interaction, the body language would shift. It would be like, oh, you're not part of the popular group. This can be a very short transactional conversation because I don't need to actually engage with you. It sounds like that's what you're describing.
Julianne, that's an excellent read because of the way I was treated in high school. I had to have jaw surgery when I was in 10th grade. My bottom jaw, they cut it and wired it. And so I was out of school for, I think, 6 months. And when I got back, kids looked at me differently. I no longer had a weak jaw. I now had a jawline. And so, but at this point I was now in 11th grade, 12th grade. So all the cruelty the kids did. And often I did feel that way with people like Anne Hathaway or Blake Lively or certain Jennifer Connelly, people that it was, if you're a hairdresser or you're this. And then there were other people, again, like Judi Dench or Jane Fonda or Tom Hanks or Johnny Depp that said, you're brilliant, you're a genius, I love the character you created. Johnny Depp told me, he said, I don't think I've ever had a better haircut than what you've given me on film. And then he stopped and he turned around and he said, actually, I think you've given me the best haircut I've ever had. And so when you get something like that from Johnny Depp, and then you're working with a woman who, it just seems there's insecurity. And like you just mentioned, high school, you're not in the in crowd. I mean, I didn't dress with a cowboy hat and a snakeskin band around it, or an open shirt, or gold chains, or tight jeans, or I was a father of 3 kids. And sometimes I'd get actors who would walk in the trailer and I felt like they gave me a look. You're the guy that people told me, oh, wait till you meet Emanuel. He's our head hairdresser. And I got that from Russell Crowe on the movie Cinderella Man. He just kind of looked at me because Ron Howard, the director, said, we have this guy. I had just finished a movie with Ron, and it felt like high school. It felt like people, you don't look like you're in the in crowd or hip or cool or,
yeah.
But people would rave about my work.
I mean, I just want to call something out here that when you're giving examples of people who you feel have treated you well as an equal, there was a lot of male names there. And when you were talking about people who have treated you poorly, there was a lot of female names there. Now, it's possible, I'm just speculating, that the women are not treating you badly, that it was possibly just like Hollywood's notoriously sexist, it's notoriously rife with sexual misconduct. Is it possible that they just had their sort of like, don't be a creep, sort of anti-creep defenses up? So people like you and I, we're both men. We receive this kind of cold shoulder just because they don't want to be creeped on after a lifetime of being creeped on. Is something like that possible?
Again, these are good observations that you've brought up. It's hard for me to agree with that because there was a moment I worked on a movie for a few days or a couple of weeks, City Slickers with Billy Crystal. Billy walked into the trailer. He saw me standing there. He walked in the makeup side door, and I was at the other end of the trailer. And Billy looked at me, and I saw him give me a look. And then he proceeded to say good morning to his makeup man, and then go down the line and say people. When he got to me, he just passed by me. And the entire time I worked, he wouldn't say a word to me. Wouldn't say good morning. The woman who I was even doing her hair, the actress, she said, "Good morning, Billy." He said, "Hello." And later on, she even told me, she said, "Billy said the guy who's doing your hair is really good." But he wouldn't look at me. Well, 2 years later, I was having lunch in Beverly Hills at some restaurant. I was invited by an actress. And she said, "Can I invite my friend?" And it was apparently Billy's old assistant who worked with him on My Giant. I forgot her name. But I said, "Can I ask you something? You worked with Billy." And she said, "You worked with Billy?" I said, "I did." And she said, "He didn't talk to you, right?" And I said, "You know that?" And she said, "He would never have talked to you." And I would hear things like this, and I would just think, can these actors, Richard Dreyfuss did that to me, Roger Moore did that to me. These male actors would come in, and there would be, Bill Murray kind of did it for a little while, and then Bill and I bonded. So I can't say it was just women. There were men who, again, I don't know if it was, I used to check myself and say, did I do something or say something? And it would take me back to high school. Why are these kids being so cruel or mean or teasing me? And then I realized it's not me, because somebody like George Clooney, Jane Fonda, again, Judi Dench, these people just greeted me with open arms and, so it was always a hit and miss. So it was always, I always wondered it's probably to this day, what was it that I did that set some people off and some people that just would embrace me?
Yeah. Okay. So it feels to me like Hollywood is full of these disappointing interactions. And at the point where you've had a pretty annoying experience with Anne Hathaway, you get a job with Blake Lively. And you knew from the start that this was not going to be a positive experience. So, spin the yarn, set up the scene for me. The first time you met Blake Lively was in a trailer, and just take me through that little moment.
Actually, the first time I met Blake Lively, her makeup artist who recommended her to me, and I had just arrived in Wilmington, North Carolina, and we were shopping for the film. We were getting our products and things we needed ready. And she said to me, "Blake, I hear Blake's having her nails done at a local salon. Let's go meet her. I want to introduce you." And I thought, this is probably her time off. I wasn't really into meeting celebrity. I don't care who it was. I thought, I'm working with them. I'll meet them then. So we walked into a nail salon, and Blake was in the middle of having her nails done. And we were introduced, and she kind of gave me a look up and down and said, "Hello." And I wanted to get out of there. I just thought, you're having your nails done, you're relaxing. And I remember her makeup artist, they were leaving, and they did one movie before that. And so the makeup artist said, "All right, Blake, we're leaving. I love you." And Blake kind of gave this look, and she said, "You love me?" And I remember thinking, it was odd of the makeup artist to say that, but I think it was even odder. That was probably one of the most real moments where Blake actually showed me the most that she was a real person by saying, "You love me? How could you love me? You've just done a movie." I thought, oh, this is not about love or friendship or or something like that. And This was about, I mean, just her reaction of "you love me" was, that was a human reaction. How could you love me? You don't really know me.
How did the other person respond? Did she laugh it off?
We got in the car, and she was a little stunned by that because she put out all this emotion. "I love you," and Blake said, "You love me," and it was questioned. And I think she even kind of questioned, "Oh, I thought we were closer than maybe I thought." So.
Did you guys talk about it in the car?
No, I didn't talk about it because I felt that Vivian was embarrassed by that. And I think to sum up the whole thing, and working with Blake, and again, never having conversations with her, but doing her hair every day, and her acting as if I was doing her hair, but acting as if I wasn't really there. So Vivian said, Blake invited us. It was Easter Sunday, and she said Blake invited us to her house. Well, the way they rented these beautiful beach houses, they were on the beach of Wilmington Beach, and they rented one for us, which was in a cul-de-sac right across the street from Blake, 2 houses away. So if I hadn't gone to this dinner, which I didn't want to go to this Easter dinner that Blake was preparing for us, and Eddie Redmayne was going to be there, and Grace Moritz and Blake's family, I thought it's not going to look good if I don't go, so I ended up going. But what really was an eye-opener for me was we were invited to dinner. It was going to be 2:00. Maybe dinner would be served at 3:00. When we got there into the house that the production rented for Blake, the kitchen was an absolute disaster. There was no food ready. Blake had been making pastries all night and cream puff towers and cakes, and she didn't say hello to her guests. She didn't, and I thought, this woman is so self-absorbed. There was no food prepared. There was nothing prepared to feed the guests, but Blake wanted to show everybody how she made these desserts. And again, it's little things like that. It's not even being Blake Lively. Any host who would invite 25 people over for dinner and not have the food ready because, or the table set, or anything prepared, because they were so self-absorbed to me on how the desserts were prepared. And sure enough, people started saying, "Oh, Blake, they're beautiful." And she had, I think, frosting on her cheek, and she had an apron on. And I finally left the house at 8:30 after I ripped into the ham that was on the kitchen counter. I had a few pieces of it. But my wife and my daughter had visited me that weekend. I just thought, I got to go feed my family. I can't do this. The other guests stayed, but I finally left at around 8:00, and the food still hadn't been served. And again, it's things like that left me the impression that this was all about you. This is not even on the film set. It's all about you. Even in your personal life, you invited all these guests over for Easter dinner, and that's what happened.
Okay. So let me just get this straight in my mind. So you were invited for dinner or for lunch?
Well, Easter afternoon, apparently we were supposed to eat at 3:00. We would get there at 2:00. And so it was kind of an early dinner.
Okay. Early
Yes.
dinner. Let's call it like a dunch, lunch dinner. The food came out at 8:00, and you were probably expecting more like 4 or 5 at the latest. This is the accusation that we're leveling here.
Yes. I hope it doesn't sound petty, but again, when I left, I looked over my shoulder, and Blake was squatted down with a pastry sleeve with whipped cream in it, filling in the spots of this tower she had built, this cream puff tower. So she didn't even know. I don't even think she knew I was there, or my family was there, or anybody. I mean, she must have known there were guests there and her family, but even her family seemed to, her mother and brother seemed to be afraid of her. You don't tell Blake, you have all these people here. We need to feed them. So I don't even know if the food ever came out. I went home, and I think we made tacos or something like that. So
yeah, I love tacos. This is very tricky territory that we're waiting around in here? Because on the one hand, it feels to me like I've tried to host dinner parties before. They're really stressful. I get stressed at a dinner party because I'm like, my culinary skills are out on the line. Everyone can judge me. So I get all like hot and bothered, and, I'm trying to whip up things that are just slightly outside of my ability. Is it possible that she was just feeling, I don't know, anxious? Did you witness maybe some rampant anxiety in the context of a dinner party where she didn't really know anyone? Is that possible?
No, I didn't. I don't think I saw Blake speak to one of her guests. And it sounds like I'm after her, but this is what I observed. I don't remember her coming out of the kitchen dining room area to speak to her guests or say, thank you all for coming, or introducing herself to the people, because there were families of people. My wife had flown in, had never met Blake, nor had my daughter. There was no interaction that I saw in the hours that I was there. But what I'm going from is, there was a moment where I was working with Kate Blanchett in Rome, and we were shooting the movie Life Aquatic. And I told her, I just casually mentioned that the Thanksgiving holiday was coming up in November. And I said, it's one of my favorite holidays. That's all Kate needed to hear. I said, and she said, are you sorry you're missing it? And I said, no, Kate, I just love the holiday, Thanksgiving, more than Christmas. Her husband, Andrew Upton, sent for food, cranberry sauce and marshmallows. And Kate threw one of the most lovely her Kate and Andrew Thanksgiving dinners with just me, Andrew, her, and her assistant Dan Lee, and she was so gracious. So, for her to find out that I was missing Thanksgiving, and they had ingredients flown in from the United States to Rome. Maybe that's what I was expecting, something but I never saw that for Blake. So that's very kind of you to want to give her the benefit of the doubt. But I didn't see her speak to anybody, any of her guests. She was just in the middle. In fact, the kitchen was such a disaster that Vivian and her sister, who was visiting, were called over at 1:00 from our house to come over and help clean. And they were there for an hour, cleaning pots and pans and all the things that Blake had made a mess. So,
it sounds chaotic. It sounds like a chaotic afternoon for everyone, and hungry.
Like I said, when I saw the honey baked ham on the counter there, covered in foil, I thought, I'm ripping into this ham. I really am very hungry.
Yeah. I'd have eaten the ham. Okay, so I guess the other point is that this came off the back of like a negative working experience with Blake. So you say that first meeting, you're doing her hair, and she's just kind of acting like you're not there. Let's drill into that a bit more. Like, what was it like when she acted as though you weren't there?
I did my job. I gave her a little bit of a trim, and she was talking to people in the trailer the whole time. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist, but it was that kind of, I felt you're not going to have control over the situation. I'm Blake Lively. It wasn't a mean thing. It felt like an insecurity, actually. It felt, when I read this, when I heard about all the latest news with her in the last movie, well, I had flashbacks. I don't know that director. I've never worked with him. But I imagine I knew what he had gone through, that he didn't even want to be at the premieres or the thing, because it really was all about her. And if that was his way of making a statement, I would have done the same thing. I would have said, you came on to do this movie, from what I read, and you took control. And I've never met Ryan Reynolds, but if they did take control and made it about him, I had flashbacks of, I know what you probably have gone through. Because I didn't think it was him. I thought it was actually more her. I didn't think it was him being a control freak or I just thought, I think I know what you've gone through, that it's the Blake Lively show. And that's what you do if you work with Blake Lively. You just make it about what she wants. When I saw the one interview where the woman said, congratulations on your little bump. And she said, congratulations on your little bump. I thought, I just felt like those were flashbacks of the dinner party,
Yeah, I mean, I watched that video and I felt immediately sorry for that Norwegian journalist. You know, like it's a classic faux pas to insinuate that a woman is pregnant because, you know, it comes across as just a comment about weight. So I don't even know where she was going with that on your little bump thing. Like, I just don't even know what that was. But what hit me when I was watching that video was that both of the women, the other actress as well from that movie, they were both kind of mean. There was a meanness to it. It was, again, that high school dynamic where they're like sort of gushing to each other about the brilliance of the people that they work with while simultaneously being mean to the woman, the Norwegian journalist, who wasn't part of that in crowd. It was very much like celebrating that we're up on this upper echelon while looking down on this poor journalist who was just trying to interview them. That was the dynamic that I read. Did you see something similar?
I did. Thank you, Julian, and again, I love your observations. And again, I'm coming from a place of what I'd seen. I'd seen absolute graciousness. So when I did see that, and that was Parker Posey, and they were joking back and forth with each other, I heard that the interviewer, and she was possibly nervous, but she heard that Blake was pregnant again. So she said, "Congratulations on your little bump." She didn't just say, "Oh, you look fat, you have a little bump." That she was told that, "Oh, and Blake has, she's pregnant again." So she was trying to be kind. So I come from a place of seeing graciousness. And then so when you see the opposite, it's almost like a wake-up call that there are two sides. Not everybody is like that, because I've also experienced loveliness.
I mean, is it fame? Are we also just describing some of the fallout of fame? You know, like the human brain wasn't really built for like modern fame, like the kind of constant scrutiny that people are subjected to. It must be exhausting. It must be terrifying. It must bring a level of stress to your life that probably impacts your social skills. Maybe the people who are rude are just the ones who are not dealing with it very well. What do you think about that?
I think so. I think that some people handle it differently. I mean, one of my favorite stories, while we were shooting Inglourious Bastards, we were in Berlin, and I always like to go into the room where the extras are being done, because I would hire extra hair people, being the head of the department. And I would say good morning to them and introduce myself, the people we're helping. And I would talk to the background. I love talking to the background actors. I always would try to say good morning. And there was one man who came up to me and he said, "I've read about you." He said, you're famous. And I said, "Oh," and I had that moment of, "Oh, well, thank you very much." And he said, I read an article. I said, "Oh, thank you." He said, "I'll bring it to you tomorrow." And I said, "Oh, well, thank you." Well, the next day he comes up to me with the article, and it was a woman from the London Sunday Times or something that had wrote an article about how Tom Hanks, this is the look I created for him on Da Vinci Code. Tom Hanks says this man tells stories with hair. She said, "I don't know what story he told with Tom Hanks in Da Vinci Code, a drunken caveman." I mean, she just trashed me. This woman just went on and on how bad his hair was. Damn. So I said to this man, I said, why would you bring this to me? And he said, "It's about you." And I said, "I know it's about me, but it's trashing the work I did." And those are kind of lessons that I love, that God would give me moments like that to just say, don't ever get full of yourself. There's always the people that will just trash you and just say, "Well, he's not as good as I think." And I've heard that over the years. And I guess it is what you said, how you handle it.
Yeah. When we get reviews on this podcast, and some of them are middling, to say the least. Others are quite rude. I mean, sometimes we get great reviews. I look at the review, I'm like, yeah, and it pumps me up. But then I get others and it just like ruins my day. And then I can only imagine that after I've read a negative review, I'm probably kind of a bit flat and grumpy to the people around me. I think negative reviews, criticisms of your work, of your personality, they make you a less charming person. I don't know. There's a lot of actors getting criticized in Hollywood who are probably less charming because they just feel scrutinized and paranoid.
Again, Julian, I'll give you that. That's a very good observation. I noticed that in working with Kate as much as I did, she said, you really don't like doing my hair for events or for photo shoots. I said, I don't. I love doing her hair for a character in a movie, but I didn't. She found other hair people that they like that. They like the red carpet, lights flashing, we're backstage, the music's playing. I never really enjoyed that because I found that there was more phoniness in that, and that made me uncomfortable. I didn't want to be somebody's entourage, or so maybe that's why I was so aware of it, because working with Jennifer Lopez on Monster-in-Law, I think there was 14 people in her team of between her stylist and her hairdresser and her makeup artist and her, but there's some people that need that. It seems like they need that constant reassurance of people around them saying, oh, you're incredible, you're wonderful, you're and other people are there to just act.
Hey, we're just going to stop here for a quick ad break, but stick around. We'll be right back with more What It Was Like.
To make switching to the new Boost Mobile risk-free, we're offering a 30-day money-back guarantee.
So why wouldn't you switch from Verizon or T-Mobile?
Because you have nothing to lose. Boost Mobile is offering a 30-day money-back guarantee.
No, I asked why wouldn't you switch from Verizon or T-Mobile?
Oh.
Wouldn't.
Because you love wasting money as a way to punish yourself because your mother never showed you enough love as a child?
Whoa. Easy there.
Yeah.
Applies to online activations. Requires port in and auto pay. Customers activating in stores may be charged non-refundable activation fees.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
This show is brought to you by BetterHelp. So it's September and it's back to school time. And I'm not personally going back to school, but I'm always trying to stay curious. And recently, I'm learning something new. I'm learning how to manage stress. Doing this show every week, it sometimes gets stressful. Sometimes stories fall through right at the last minute and we have to scramble and I get stressed. So I'm just trying to learn some more positive coping skills and how to set boundaries on my time. And I think this is why therapy is so good, because it just teaches you these skills. If you're thinking about trying therapy, maybe give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. You just fill out a brief questionnaire and they match you with a licensed therapist. And if you don't get along with them, you can just switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/whatitwaslike today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/whatitwaslike. Jennifer Lopez is another celebrity who has been accused of being kind of mean. And I understand you've got a Jennifer Lopez story. Can you tell it to me?
Yes, we were doing a television show for ABC, a morning show, and I was there with an actress, and all of a sudden we were told the next guest is on her way. It's Jennifer Lopez. You guys need to clear the room. Everybody needs. And suddenly there was an instant panic of clear the room. Jennifer Lopez is coming. And again, I've been to doing a lot of talk shows in the green room with a lot of actors, and I'd never had that experience. So when we all went to the elevator, I realized, I forgot my overcoat. It was February, snowing in New York. So I went back into the room to get my overcoat that was hanging over a chair. And when I turned around, Jennifer walked into the room. And I remember she was wearing this black tight dress and she looked at me. And now I'm standing maybe 3 feet in front of her. And the only way to get out of the room would be to either walk by her or walk through her. So I said, "Hello, Jennifer." I said, Emanuel Millar. I said, we worked together on Monster-in-Law. I was doing Jane Fonda's hair. Jennifer just looked at me, just gave me a blank stare, and then looked away to her bodyguards as if, "You were told to get this trash and clear the room. Why isn't this room cleared?" And it confirmed everything of, was it really necessary? I never asked you for an autograph. I didn't ask you for a selfie. I didn't want to be one of your besties. I didn't even want to do your hair. But you can't even say, "Hello, how are you?" Or "How is Jane? Have you seen her lately?" Or just, you can't even find words to say hello or "Yes, I remember," or "Again, how are you?" She just gave a look as if, I need this room cleared. That's what you were told to do your job. And when people have treated me that way, it's not a personal thing. It's more, wow, what is going on what is going on in your life that you feel that is a necessary thing? So again, when reading all this stuff lately that's happened and I worked on a film with Ben Affleck, and I really just love the guy. The first time I was sitting at a table having lunch, Ben got his food. I watched him come out and go to the caterer and get his tray of food. And he came over and he said, "Do you mind if I sit with you?" And I thought, do I mind if you sit with me? That was sweet. So a couple of times I had lunch with Ben. And I remember thinking, how sweet. You didn't have to ask. You could have just sat down. But it was so opposite of the kind of look that Jennifer gave me and the way that I saw her treat crew. I was actually surprised that the two of them were together, because Ben, he was one of my favorite leading men to work with.
It seems to me that what you're describing, these interactions, these negative experiences with various leading actors, is these kind of like anemic social interactions. They're not being technically rude on paper. They're not abusing you or hitting you, or, there's nothing criminal going on here, but they're just kind of ice cold. Is that how you describe it?
I would say, again, it varies on the person. I did a film with Jennifer Connelly, and she just was cold from the moment we met on the phone. And again, I thought, from my experiences, is this another? Sure enough, from the day I met Jennifer in person, doing her hair, it was never good enough. It was never the right way. It was, I put fake hair in her hair to give her more volume in her hair. People would say to her, "Jennifer, your hair looks beautiful. You look beautiful today." So one day I saw her on set and she was rubbing her temples, and I know I'd clipped some extensions in her hair. And so I saw her rubbing her temples, and I said, "Jennifer," I went up to her and said, Are you okay?" She said, "I have a headache." And I said, "Is it the hair extensions?" And she looked at me and she said, "Yeah, it's the hair extensions." It's almost like she was just saying, "You bother me." And really, from that moment, so I made a decision that I wasn't going to do her hair any longer. I was going to give her to the other hairdresser who was helping me. And I told her, I said, "Don't say anything to Jennifer now, but you're going to be doing her hair from now on. And I'll show you what I do, but I think she's going to be happier with you." Half an hour later, I get a call. I hear over the radio, "Where's Emanuel? Where's Emanuel? He needs to come to the makeup and hair trailer right away." I walked in, the producers sent me into the trailer, and Jennifer was in tears, makeup, mascara running down her eyes, snot coming down to her nose, and saying, why won't you do my hair? Why don't you want to?" And I was shocked. I thought, you have been nothing but just borderline mean to me. I think even some of the actors noticed it from her little comments or her dismissiveness. And now you're crying because I don't want to do your hair any longer. Those are the kind of psychological things that I just thought, what is that? I can't take it personally, really.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm hearing in that story is someone who's putting themselves under enormous amounts of stress, enormous amounts of pressure. The pressure to be a perfect actress, to be a perfect woman in the spotlight. Yeah, she must she must be on the verge of breaking all the time for something so small to send her over the edge. It must be awful.
Well, Julianne, you said you have a child, right? You have a little girl.
Yeah,
Yes.
I got a little girl. She's 3.
One of the telltale signs that I noticed during that moment was Jennifer's son, I think her youngest son, he was in the trailer while that was happening. And I noticed as Jennifer was crying and sobbing and hysterical, her son was playing with my wig block. And what I thought was, this is all in a day for this little boy. If your mother was standing there crying hysterically, running with snot running down, I mean, wouldn't a child say, "Mommy, what's wrong? Are you okay?" But I thought to myself, this must be an occurrence that he has seen many times because he wasn't fazed by it at all. And that to me, those are the little signs that I get that, oh, this isn't just me. This is this little boy, I think he was 7 years old at the time, was not upset by any means. In fact, the makeup artist even said, hey, she took him by the hand and said, "Okay, honey, let's walk outside." She took him outside, and he very calmly walked outside, not saying, "No, I want to be here with my mommy, and she's hysterical, she's crying." He went outside and said, so I thought to myself, oh, maybe this happens more often than you think.
Yeah, that's sad. I think that's a really sad observation.
I don't mean to make you sad.
No, of course. It's not like I'm going to tear up or anything, but as a dad, I like happy kids, and a kid who sounds like he's seen a lot of his mum getting upset. That's a sad moment.
Right.
I'm really aware that we're two guys criticizing a lot of women. And I don't want people to listen to this conversation being like, guys, come on, this is deeply uncool. So I'm hoping, and I want to work through this with you, that this is a broader conversation about, I think that film and TV as an industry both attracts and incubates meanness in people. It's a ruthless industry. The reward is fame and money, so it brings in people who are really hungry and ambitious, and it spits them out, or it gives them everything they've ever wanted in the whole world. So the mechanics of this machine are such where it brings out the meanness in people. So I guess that was a long way to say, have you seen this in men too? Is this just sort of across the board human thing? And let's just unpack some of that, like meanness in the industry as a whole.
Well, Julianne, please, I hope that anybody listening to this realizes that when I wrote my book, I wrote The Kindest Cut. That's a title that I've had for years, The Kindest Cut. And a friend suggested you put ... the intuitive life lessons learned by a Hollywood hairstyle. I'm not pointing out men or women. It's the people I've dealt with. It was... It's not just these women did this to me, but the guys were great. I mean, because Russell Crowe is the only actor I've ever worked with who hit me.
He hit you?
He hit me. I was doing his hair for the movie Cinderella Man. Russell almost never spoke to me. He treated me that same way. That he loved his makeup man, David Anderson, and Sean. I forgot Sean's last name. They were doing prosthetics on him every day. He was playing a real life boxer, and so I put a little widow's peak on him, a little hairpiece on him. So I would do that every morning. But one day I was checking it on set, and Russell said, "Not now, Emanuel," and he just swung at me and he hit me, and the watch he was wearing hit my arm, and it hit this bone here, and it gave me this kind of like it hit my funny bone.
Yeah.
And so Ron Howard, the director, saw it on camera. The camera people were right there. Well, Russell tried to do it again 3 days later. He tried to hit me. I felt that someone was coming after me. I turned around, and he came at me with his fist in the air. And I saw that, and I 3 feet away from him, I said, "Do not hit me." And I didn't raise my voice. And he said, "Hit you." And I said, "You hit me last Friday in the locker room." I said, "You touch me again, and I will punch you in the face, and I'm out of here. Do you understand?" And he lowered his fist, but he said, and this might confirm what you were talking about, the frustration. He said, "Why would you do that? Why would you do that right before I take?" I said, "Your son Charlie messed up your hair when you went to kiss him before you gave him to the nanny. Russell held his son Charlie up in the air, who was visiting, and gave him to the nanny. And Charlie pulled his hair, and two pieces were sticking up like little antenna, like that.
Yeah.
And so I ran in there right as I heard Ron Howard yell, "Rolling!" I ran in, and I patted it down, and then I left. And that's when I heard, "Cut!" Russell yelled, "Cut!" Not the director, and he came after me. When that scene was over, he said before that, he said, "How's my hair now?" I said, "It's fine." He said, "You and I aren't fit. We're not done with this." And I said, "Okay." When that scene was over, he said, "Manny," and he pulled me into the back of the restaurant, and it was just him and I. And this was the shocking part, and it might confirm what you were saying. He said, "Do you know what it takes? Do you know what it takes for me to do what I do to?" And he was in tears. And I just thought, are you fucking kidding me? That you're standing here crying, you hit me, you don't speak to me. At one point he said to me, "You know why I don't," he said, you know why I don't speak to you? And I said, "No, why? Why he doesn't say good morning?" He said, "Because you're always there, you do your job, and my hair looks great, and you're one less thing I have to think about." So again, people gave me clues that you're one less thing I have to think about, but that doesn't give you a right to hit me while I'm doing my job.
No.
I didn't ask you for a photo. I wasn't out drinking with you. We were at work, and I was told by the first AD to step in and do what I needed to do because we needed to get this shot. And when he tried to do it again, but again, as he was standing there in this back of this room behind this Chinese screen and whimpering like a hurt animal, "Do you know what it takes? Do you know what it takes for me to do what I do? For me to get up there?" And I thought, okay, you're just giving me a whole clue, Russell, into an insecurity of an actor, that you're not Gladiator, that it takes a lot, but he gives the impression that I'm Russell Crowe and I can be as late as I want. Almost every day on set, Russell was 20 minutes to 4 hours late every day. We would wait for him. And we were told by the ADs, "Guys, as soon as Russell gets here, could you guys just rush him through? We need him on set." I don't know. I've never worked with an actor who would do that to a set. I mean, time is money in filming, and Russell was late almost every day. Again, between 20 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours. They couldn't find him. We can't afford for him to show up when he feels like it. And just, again, hit people. Actually, there was a big bouquet of flowers that were sent to me on Saturday, and I didn't even think about it, but I thought, oh, that's very sweet. And I told somebody on Monday morning, I said, they said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." I said, "I got a big bunch of flowers." And somebody said, "Yeah, they probably didn't want you to sue him." And I didn't realize that I could have sued him. I mean, who goes to work and gets hit by somebody? I mean, he physically hit me, and people saw it.
Yeah. Okay, so to be clear, Russell Crowe sent you a big bouquet of flowers.
The production sent me flowers. Russell never said a word. The production sent me flowers.
Did you ever push back on any of these rude actors?
What do you mean?
I mean, push back, as in, like, did you ever call it out? Did you ever try?
Yes, actually, it's interesting. I have Michael Mann, the director Michael Mann. He and I had words about something, and it was actually a lovely moment. After he would scream, and that started to build up in me. And by the end of the night, after hearing Michael scream on set, this, and just yell, when we were leaving, Michael was right in front of me, and I heard these words come out of my mouth. I said, "Michael, I need to speak to you, and sooner rather than later." And I thought to myself, did I just say that? And I walked down to the van at the bottom of the hill, and I heard over the radio, "Where's Emanuel? Where's Emanuel? Michael wants to speak to him." And my heart was racing and thinking, well, I said I wanted to speak with him. And I mean, this man's a yeller, a screamer. It seems like almost everything made him angry. But he saw me come up the hill, and he pulled me aside, and he said, "Hey, what's up?" I said, "There's no reason that I should ever have to tell you this, Michael." But I said, "I was molested as a child for 8 years." And I said, "And this screaming, this is not a good environment for me." Michael grabbed me, pulled me to him, and whispered in my ear. He said, "Thank you for telling me that. Thank you." He said, "I promise you, I will never yell at you again." He said, "I promise you." I did not expect that by calling somebody on something, who would have expected this man who had just heard yelling for weeks to be that sensitive? I still get a Christmas card from him, but he said, and he never yelled at me again for the rest of the movie. We shot for almost 5 months. He never yelled at me. He never raised his voice. He stayed true to his word. It's like he said, you told me something very personal and that how it affects you. And so, yes, I have called people out on things of saying, this affects me. Your behavior, you can be a movie star, you can be famous, you can do what you want, but don't do it to me. That's why I told Russell Crowe, you touch me again, you hit me, and I will hit you back. I will punch you.
Okay. I'm playing some sort of armchair psychology here, but it seems when I look at your life story from high school, being given a rough time by some of the other kids to being given a rough time by some of the actors, that kindness is important to you, that you value manners and just generosity of spirit highly. You value this stuff highly. Is that right?
That's very true. I mean, I may not have always been the nicest guy, and I'm sure there's people you can find that would say I'm an ass, but I've tried. And so, yes, kindness, I hope that kindness is part of my nature in doing that and believing in people. That why not be kind? People have been kind to me. The ones who helped me, the ones who said, hey, you're really good, I'm going to call you for a film, or do you want to go with me to do this movie in Italy? Or so that's what I've thrived on more, not bitterness towards anybody or anything. I've had an amazing career.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm attracted to you, to your book, to this idea that you bring into the world, because it's something that I truly believe. I owe my career to the people in my life who have been kind and generous to me. I tried to break into film and TV. It was hard. It was really hard. So I got kind of like diverted into journalism, and that's largely via the generosity of the people who have helped to mentor me. And so kindness has played a huge role in my life. So I try to pay that back to the world by being kind to others. I try to be kind to, when someone emails me, I always respond. When someone, asks for a favor, I do my very best to help them out. I really value this kind of thinking. And it seems that you do too.
I do, Julian. I really do. I've gone to 3 premieres of movies, and the premiere for Kill Bill took place at Grauman's Chinese Theater right down the street on Hollywood Boulevard. And Quentin said to me, he said, "Are you coming?" And I said, and he said, "Are you coming?" And I could hear in his voice that he really wanted me to be there. And I said, "I'm going to try." And he said, "Please." He said, "Please come." So I showed up at the premiere, and there was a red carpet, and the bleachers were set up across the street, and the paparazzi, and Quentin saw me, and he said, "You came." And I pointed to him, and I said, "Only for you would I do this." And he said, I know. And I really meant it. You asked me to come to this premiere. These are the things that I avoid, but I would do. But you asked me. It was so sincere how he asked me to please come to the premiere.
Yeah.
And I think maybe he was just proud of the work that I did. I'm very proud of my work on Kill Bill, actually. So.
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's a great movie, and I love that period of Quentin Tarantino. Let's swing this back to Blake Lively for a moment before we finish up with a few last questions. She's basically getting cancelled at the moment. When this took off, how did you feel?
I mean, I don't wish retaliation or evil on anybody, but the first thing that came to my mind was that's karma, because I saw the way how dismissive she was to people. I just thought, I think people are canceling you, and it's finally coming out that you weren't really very nice. You weren't nice to me. You weren't not nice to me, but you weren't nice to me. So if people are not being nice to you, I think it's karma.
Yeah. I mean, the other people, well, the person, I guess, who I feel sorry for in this situation is the author of It Ends With Us. And also all the people, the people who made It Ends With Us, brought it to life. It's a powerful book. I haven't seen the movie, I have to admit, but you've got to back any story that tries to shine a spotlight on the plague of domestic violence against women. You got to applaud that. And it feels to me like the book and the movie are getting eclipsed by this controversy around Blake Lively. So I feel sorry for the good intentions and the way that this story is getting lost in all that.
Well, Julian, to go along with that, everything that I've seen, what I've heard about the clips and what I've seen, it does remind me of that dinner party that she did a movie about domestic violence. I've not read the book, nor would I go see the movie, because I actually almost can't stand to look at Blake Lively after working with her. So I didn't see the movie. But from what I've seen from the clips and what I understand, she made it like the dinner party about her. I mean, wouldn't you talk about domestic violence and how important it is to try to help? But the 4 or 5 clips I've seen of her, it's joking and laughing and what she's wearing and her hair and her husband Ryan Reynolds. And I don't know what that has to do with the movie. That's like, I don't get it. That's like doing a movie about alcoholism and you're out drinking and just saying, I just love to party and get drunk. And so it reminds me of my experience with her. I wouldn't add to something if I wasn't there. I don't jump in on somebody that, they probably this. If I don't know them, I don't know them. If I've never met them, I will say I've never met them. I've never worked with them. So again, after working with people like Cate Blanchett and again, Johnny, there's an obvious difference that goes on. And I wonder if people lose their careers, I just think maybe you should have taken it a little bit more serious. So.
Yeah. Okay, let's try something ambitious here. Let's put it all together. When people are looking at this controversy, what do you want them to know? What do you feel like you know that they don't?
That just because you're on television or you've made a name for yourself or people know your name, are you good? Are you giving something to the public? When I see actors just take it as, well, it's all about me. No, it was a collaborative effort. I couldn't have done just the hair on a person without somebody doing the makeup and then getting them into wardrobe and then lighting them and then checking the sound. It wasn't just about hair. And so when I see that, I think, how are you turning this movie into the Blake Lively show? And why? Then it must be about you. It must, again, confirm that dinner party. You invited guests over and you didn't even feed them or be concerned if they were hungry or they were tired or they were sitting around this rented beach house for hours. When I left, the people were still there.
I think you nailed that question. I was like, this is going to be hard, but you put it together very beautifully. That was a great summary. Emanuel, thank you so much for sharing your story with me. This has been fantastic.
This was lovely as well for me. I really appreciate it. You seem like a great guy yourself.
So what did we learn today? Well, I thought Emanuel's story about Russell Crowe crying and saying, "You don't know how hard it is to do this," and I thought that was really illuminating. I suspect that if I asked Blake Lively about all of this, she'd probably agree. She'd probably say, yeah, it's so hard to be in this industry, to be under this pressure, to be in the public eye, et cetera, et cetera. Because, like I said, I just think the film industry is high pressure and it can bring out the worst in people. And maybe when I look back at my own experience trying to break in and I felt unappreciated and unwanted, it's possible that all of the people being rude to me, they also felt unappreciated and unwanted. I think it's just a human truth. It's a human being thing that literally everyone on Earth feels like they exist somewhere on a sliding scale of victimhood, even Hollywood stars. And so this conversation, for me, it's just been a big reminder, don't be a dick. Even when I think I've got it hard, just be nice to people. And on that note, Emanuel's book is called The Kindest Cut, and it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and if you're here in Australia, like I am, it's at Dimmicks. Today's episode was produced by Rachel Tuffery. It was mixed by Jimmy Saunders, who also did our theme music. Daniela Cantu and Darcy Humphreys are our interns. Our cover art is by Naomi Lee Beveridge, and this whole thing has been a Super Real production.
To make switching to the new Boost Mobile risk-free, we're offering a 30-day money-back guarantee.
So why wouldn't you switch from Verizon or T-Mobile?
Because you have nothing to lose. Boost Mobile is offering a 30-day money-back guarantee.
No, I asked why wouldn't you switch from Verizon or T-Mobile?
Oh.
Wouldn't.
Because you love wasting money as a way to punish yourself because your mother never showed you enough love as a child?
Whoa. Easy there.
Yeah.
Applies to online activations. Requires port in and auto pay. Customers activating in stores may be charged non-refundable activation fees.
Discover Hydro, the best kept secret in fitness. Hydro is the state-of-the-art at-home rower that engages 86% of your muscles, delivering the ultimate full-body workout in just 20 minutes. From advanced to beginner, Hydro has over 500 classes, shot worldwide and taught by Olympians and world-class athletes. For a 30-day risk-free trial, go to hydro.com and use code ROW450 to save $450 on a Hydro Pro rower. That's HYDROW.com, code ROW450.